This is Wellow Brook down behind me. I'm a few miles south from my home in Bath, and I'm cycling about 30 miles, and I'm going to wild bivvy camp at the site of an old Roman temple. It's also significant because I believe that there was a major Roman road junction there. Although I'm bivvy camping, it's not minimalist. I've got a table, chair, steak, chips, mushrooms for tonight. I've even got a wine glass. Hopefully I'm going to pick up a bottle of wine en route. It's coming up. Here we are then, back at the ford. Seems to be quite busy with farm traffic, utilities as well. This can be a favourite bathing place for locals in the summer. It is almost like a beach down here sometimes. We're about to turn left immediately after this corner here, and it brings out in the village of Norton St Philip, and that's the major elevation covered for this section of the ride. First part is very steep. After a very short, sharp kick at the valley through some trees, this road now levels off a lot, and it's virtually carless. So I figure on a slow, heavily laden touring bike is so much safer. Looking back to where I've come, the other side of the valley, you can see a very defined hedgerow line along the bottom of that hill. That's the course to the old railway. That's the way I came in. Just as I got to the farm there, I turned left, came through the village, and now I've done a big sort of U-shape in effect, and I'm heading up a much safer way to Norton St Philip. I haven't been long here for a while. I forgot how lovely it is. The road doesn't just climb straight up, it does undulate a little bit. We've just climbed up past the farm and then dropping down through these woods and then climbing back up. Years ago I saw a triple SI sign here, a site of special scientific interest. I don't think places lose their designations, so as far as I'm aware this is still a triple SI area. Coming into Norton St Philip, much easier this way. Update on the road towards Warminster and picking up some supplies. So I climbed up out of the Wellow Valley, joined that Norton St Philip road which runs from Bath down to the outskirts of Road, and I wanted to avoid riding that because it can get quite busy, and I can also cut off a corner by using these really nice lanes, but it's a good chance to show you here about a bit about the geography. That B road then was running along there. I'm going to carry on down here and avoid it altogether. I do need to cross another busy road very briefly, the A36, more about that later, but this gives you a good idea of what we're heading towards. Right in front of us is Westbury White Horse. See if I can zoom in. Up on that top line there. So if you think of that big high elevation as Salisbury Plain, because that's what it is, the other side. And you can see it running all the way along there. And coming into it from the other side would be the Great Ridge, which is what we're heading for. I'm revisiting a part of a Roman road, Margary's 45B, which ran from Old Sarum to the lead mines at Charterhouse on the Mendips. It's definitely become one of my favourite Roman roads, and I've gone back to revisit bits of it so many times. And that's what's happening today. I'm going to climb up onto the Great Ridge where this old Roman temple was said to have been, and there's also a road junction there with the road coming south to north from Poole up to Bath, and then it turned westwards towards Sea Mills near the mouth of the River Avon, modern day Bristol. The reason for that coast to coast roaming road, it's suggested, is to avoid ships having to sail around the Cornish Peninsula, in particular the really treacherous seas around Land's End. So you could see it's a route from the continent up the Bristol Channel and across to South Wales. And where we're going to be camping tonight is high up on the Great Ridge, on Margary's 45B, somewhere close to where Margary's 46 crossed it. That's the Poole to Bath and then onwards to Sea Mills Road. So we're going to carry on along here, through road, up to Scudamore, and come in to the outskirts of Warminster on minor roads. And it's at Warminster I'm going to try and pick up some supplies. We've now climbed up on this slight rise in the village of Upton Scudamore before we do our final drop down about a mile or so to Warminster. But I want to see if I can have a look around this church, St Mary the Virgin, Upton Scudamore. Never been in here before actually, and it looks quite promising actually. Let's go and have a look. It's got these grated gates. Oh, and the doors on the inner as well. I'm guessing that's to let plenty of air in but keep the birds out. Is that open or not? Oh yes, let's go and have a look. Oh, this is nice. Look up at the ceilings, always do. I better shut that grated gate type door, just in case they do have problems with birds here. Right, let's see if I can get some light on. Yes. Weird sort of pulpit, part stone, part wooden. Well, it's not even a wooden structure, it's just pillars. Let me show you what I mean about this pulpit. Stone steps, possibly stone structure in the past, I don't know. Built in 2 stages. Then you've got wooden almost banisters really, with almost like a podium there. Front. Gosh. It's got a very village community use feel. It just looked open. I know it sounds crazy, but it just felt like it was going to be open. And it says cream teas. Gosh, look at all these regimental cushions. SAS, Royal Artillery, Remy. Easter. Kirsty. 1990. Sing to the Lord. Word Peace. I've been by here so many times, quite often on old axes when I've been sort of just keen to get home, or maybe on my way out somewhere. Like today's fantastic 30 miles just to shade under. I've got all day, there's no point in me getting up onto that temple spot too early because I've got to find somewhere discreetly to camp. Just gives me a chance to do things like this, have a really good look round. Turn the lights off, shut the inner door, shutting these grated gates. Oh, pick up my hat before I go. Right, I just realised it's 1 PM. No wonder I'm starting to think about lunch. I'm getting quite hungry. I'm going to pop and get myself a sandwich and hopefully the water and the wine for tonight, and then have a little sit down at Sutton Veny. Okay, we've just passed through Warminster without really going into the centre of it. We've come down through the Woodcock Industrial Estate, past the barracks, a lot of residential down there. The great thing is there's 2 mini grocery stores, so I've got all my supplies and I've got myself a bit of lunch, and we're now just crossing the River Wylie. We're now at Sutton Veny, and this is the road that runs from Warminster down to Wilton and into Salisbury. There's this green here, so there's a few roads going off. That one's going back that way, but the one we're taking is the other side of this green, down towards the Deverils along there. But first up, I'm having my lunch, as I've done many times in the past, on this seat here on the green. I'm just leaving Sutton Veny, so I'll have come in down that way from Warminster, had my lunch on the green, done a very sharp right hand bend, and then we're heading westwards along here. But the landscape opens up a bit here, so that's the Great Ridge coming in there. That's Margary's 45B running along there. We're heading in this direction, going to veer around to the left, and we will merge into it, and then it drops down to cross the River Wylie, and then as it climbs back up, that's where we're heading, back up onto the high ground, that way in a few miles time. Homing in on our destination, just over 5 miles to go. So we came in there, that way. You'll see there's a sign there for Sutton Veny. So we've just crossed this main road here, and then we're going to take that road down there. So in effect it's a staggered crossroads. You go past lots of villages with the name Deveril in it. This is Longbridge Deveril. So you've got the last chance to pick up supplies here. This is one of the Deverils, Brixton Deveril, and this is where we're crossing the River Wylie. Believe it or not, further upstream than when we did leaving Warminster. It kind of curls up and then comes back down from where I filmed before. Look how clear and chalky it is here though. Very shallow as well. And on the other side, it's very peaceful here. As I came along there, you can't see it from here, but right alongside us is the Great Ridge behind there. So somewhere Margary's 45B came down across the River Wylie here. It's either just back there, or I've always thought it's further along here. You'll see when we leave the village, it's a bit more obvious. As we leave Brixton Deveril, it opens up slightly, and you can see just how close now that ridge is on the left hand side. And somewhere or other it crosses the valley here and heads up onto the high ground over there. So I came down there through here. If you look over there, there's a very defined steep track going up there. You see it almost like a white chalky track, which made me think this is possibly the route. Down there, across the valley here, then straight up. Yet further along this road, not very far, this could be another possible descent off that ridge, and then it would correspond directly with this track going through a farm. Now I did do that before. I said to the guy, am I okay coming through? He said it is private property, but it's okay. But he did say you can get up onto the ridge a bit further along, so I don't want to trespass or upset people, so that's what I'll be doing. I'll be going further along and then getting. Okay, we're now leaving the Wylie Valley. This gives you quite a good indication, I think. So you can see that very defined line. It's like a grass boundary with some trees in between fields. You can right up on the top, come down, cross the Wylie, and now we're going, guess what, straight back up. Right up there. Probably tell, right next to the farm. I had to retrace back to the start of the village and take another steep track up, so I think I'm a little bit off course, but in the distance I can see some cars going along there. I think that must be the A303. Try and zoom in there. There's a line just along that final hill where there's a clump of trees, because I know Margary's 45B does cross that at one stage. I was expecting to come further up along there. That's where I'm trying to get along, the ridge line along there. So I've come up an alternative way, which I don't mind, but I need to sort of bear over to my left, which is quite reassuring because I've just seen a bridleway. And then you can get an idea of what I'm trying to avoid doing. Otherwise I'm going to have to dropped steeply down to that track that I was going to try and get through. The farmer did tell me there was a way through without trespassing, but I couldn't find it. And then there's really steep tracks up there, you can see. So I'm hopefully going to get along there and run along the top of the hills. We'll see. It's gorgeous up here though, isn't it? It's so isolated. I really don't mind it when things go a bit wrong. I really don't, because I've never been 100% sure of the route. And rather than keep trying to retrace the same old, let's try something different. So that's what I'm going to do, try and get along there. Then you'll have some really good views overlooking Cranbourne Chase. Bit more muddy here than rocky. But if there's a bridleway, there shouldn't be any gates that I can't get through. That's the theory anyway. Now going through a gap in the fields. It's definitely marked bridleway, and as you can see, four-wheel drive gets through here. Here we are at the summit then, this trig point. Somewhere over there is the site of the Roman temple. I think it's up near those woods. Wow, this is amazing up here. Things haven't gone exactly as I hoped, but I'm actually quite glad about that. Sometimes it's nice when it goes wrong, because it stops you doing the same old all the time. And if you look down on the Garmin with more detail, as I described earlier, that's my intended route, and that's what I want to continue doing along. But I did think I'd have a look down here, just to see what was down here, so you can see I've come in from a different angle, and I'm about to join that track. So I've joined Margary's 45B. I should have come up that way. I don't mind that I didn't, because I've discovered something new. So I did intend to come along here, shoot up there to that trig point and come back. But I've actually come in that way. But this is the landmark I really wanted to revisit, that beacon. It's quite windy up here actually. Hopefully the microphone muffles doing its stuff, blocking out most of it. You can really see how high up the Romans built their roads. I read because it first of all helped drainage, because obviously the water's flowing off the hill, not down from hills onto it. Secondly, they were less likely to be attacked. Of course, you know, easier to defend if you do get attacked, aren't they? It controls the high ground, etc. But the modern day roads are running right alongside this ridge, right down at the bottom. I'll be dropping off in the morning and joining that on the way home. And the same with that one over there. So Margary's 45B, it left Old Sarum, dropped down to Wilton, straight up onto the Great Ridge. I noticed when I rode it, it's up and down, and then eventually it drops down off Gare Hill, and then it climbs up instantly again, heads towards East Mendip and eventually West Mendip, so it's a very high hilly road. Just looking back at the way I've come, this is looking at the way I'm going. So you can see, even though I'm at the top, it's going to go down and up again. And to the best of my recollection, the Roman temple is somewhere over near those trees. I noticed there's some tractors out there harvesting, so obviously I can't do anything until they've gone. But look at that big bowl there, gosh. I investigated some spots on the southern slopes of the ridge, probably a little bit more spectacular to be honest, but it's catching the wind quite badly, and although it's not a cold wind, I think it very quickly get me cold as the sun drops. And so I've come to see this side of the hill. I wanted to have a look at that big bowl there, to be honest, and I think that's where the temple was, up there above it, probably overlooking it. It's my best guess. but I was hoping it would be less windy here being on the leeward side, and I've just walked along there and you start dropping down into a bit of a dip and you miss all this wind. You can see it's coming across, so I'm going to wheel the bike just down there. But there's some people working up on the farm. They've seen me going backwards and forwards. Whether they're bothered about me or not, I don't know, but I don't really want to be putting anything up until they've gone. The only thing with farm workers is they could well be working till dusk. But this is a pretty good view, isn't it, looking northwards? Not to be sniffed at, is it? I can't really stay on the southern slopes of this ridge because of the wind. It's just a little bit too uncomfortable, so I've just come over onto the leeward side facing north. There's this quite wide grassy track around, you can probably see, and I'm overlooking this big natural bowl. There's the big bowl. To the best of my knowledge, the temple would have been up there, possibly overlooking this view actually. That curves in almost like a horseshoe. It's not a bad view really, is it? Looking northwards, and I'm well out the wind as well. And there's the beacon up there. Well, I'm changed out my cycling kit, got the chair set up and my table. Starting to put things on the ground sheet down there. I'm probably going to set the bivvy bag up in a minute actually before I start cooking, and then it's just ready to dive into later on. But it's really nice and sheltered here actually. I can see the top of the plants behind the camera all blowing, so that I'm being protected by the curve of this hillside. It's actually quite a nice aspect here, and I'm facing right over the sun over in the west, so yeah, a good little pitch. It's getting on for 7 PM now. Really lovely up here, nice and warm now. What looks like powered gliders going over. They've got very wide wingspans, 3 of them, but I can hear propellers. Anyway, I've set the bivvy up. It's a hooped bivvy. It's a one-man tent in effect, ever so simple to set up. 1 pole at the back, 2 poles that crisscross at the front, just raise it off your head. What I really like about this compared to my old bivvy is there's much more headroom, so it allows for the more modern sleep mats, which tend to be much higher, have more depth, so it's not pushing your face into the roof. And also it's a side entrance, so ingress and egress is so much easier than trying to crawl in and out the front. And I don't think it's waterproof. It's just a single skin, although it has got a mosquito net, so I've rolled back the fly sheet because I don't think it's going to be cold tonight. And when I get in, I'll just sit the mosquito net down. There is actually headspace in the front. That's where I'd normally be trying to scramble in and out, so I can put shoes and valuables in there. It's got pockets as well. But yeah, the only thing I really don't like it is the camouflage design. I just think that's a little bit wannabe, to be honest. I prefer green or a plain colour, but not camouflage. But apart from that, I really like this. So I'm set up, pretty much ready to start my cooking actually. I'm gonna eat my meal, drink my wine, looking down at that view, looking north, with the sun, which is still quite strong actually, on the back of my neck. That's my sleep mat inflating with a little pump, which actually doubles up as a tent lantern as well. I've said this before, that's a game changer for me. It deflates them as well. Look how quickly it's going up. That's how quick it is, about 50-60 seconds. This evening then I'm cooking steak chips with mushrooms. So because I need really hot plates and to do things quite quick to get things to be ready at the same time, I bought petrol stove out, my MSR Westberlite. So the first thing I'm going to do is fire that up, boil some water. I've peeled and chopped the potatoes, made them into chip shapes, but I'm actually going to boil them for 10 minutes and then just fry them in a frying pan before I then put the steak on. And while that's being done, I can prepare the mushrooms in the water that I've already boiled the potatoes in. Potatoes there in chip shapes, boiling away. Potatoes have softened, the oil's very hot. Watch this go. Well, potatoes that size only needed 7 minutes. I started prodding my knife in and they were very soft. So I'm just going to brown them up now and then start thinking about the steak. I seasoned the steak this morning, left it in the fridge and then brought it with me, so it should have had a good 12 hours to season in. While those chips cooking, before everything goes a little bit ballistic and I've got to get everything served up at the same time, let's get the wine open. Right, here we go. Gosh. No, it's white. I just have to pretend the steak is fish. Cheers. Oh, that's nice. The chips are starting to brown, so I'm going to put the mushrooms in. Stir them about a bit. I don't like my steak very well done, I like it very rare, so it'll be about a couple of minutes either side. So I'm going to need these really well cooked first before I add the steak. God, it smells amazing coming off that. The sun's over there behind the camera. Everything's becoming golden down there. This big bowl here has got all the sheep on like terraced fields. I'm looking up there towards the Marlborough Downs. What a wonderful evening. Nice tender piece of steak. The seasoning smells amazing. Right, time to put that on and then quickly wash my hands. Just disinfecting my hands having touched raw meat there, uncooked meat. Set the timer, give it about 2 minutes each side I think. Dinner is served. Steak, chips and mushrooms. And a glass of sparkling white wine. I thought it was rosé, it's not as white. Cheers, bon appetit. What a fantastic camping experience. It's 20 past 8 now and that steak was absolutely fantastic. I have to say I still haven't got the timing quite right. I didn't need to boil the potatoes quite as much as I thought, and then I put them in to fry thinking they'd need at least 10 minutes in shallow oil, but they didn't. They started burning quite quickly, and then I put the steak in with it, and so I think I just need to cut down the times, actually be a bit less cautious actually, but the steak itself tasted fantastic. This is looking back over towards the sunset, and until a couple of minutes ago the farm workers up in that field were still there. You could just sort of see the white transit van go backwards and forwards, and like a combine harvester, some sort of harvester anyway. Quite a bit of noise. So yeah, they work until dusk by the look of it. But this is a 360. That's looking north. That's the view I've just had. Eating my tea. That's looking back the way I've just come. And then there's all these tall plants behind me. I'm not sure what they are. They've really helped to act as a windbreak. But I'm just loving looking down at that view. Imagining that Roman temple must have been up there somewhere, looking down at that. I've brought a couple of maps along with me, and I intended to actually show you exactly where we are and the context of the roads and the temple, but I think it's going to be a little bit too dark soon. I need to get my washing up done as well, so I'll share that with you in the morning actually. Oh, just noticed there's a young crescent moon behind me. Don't know if it's coming out just above the crops. Well, this wasn't planned. My ascent up onto this ridge was different to what I planned, and I really intended to be on the southern aspect looking south, but this has just been fantastic looking north, and it's got me out that wind as well. The planes are still flying even though it's dusk. It's 9:15 now and they're really lit up. Let me zoom in and see if I can capture that. Wow, I'm I've been hearing them all evening. I thought they're bound to go down as it gets dark. But look at them all lit up. Purples and blues and red. I wasn't expecting the planes to be flooded this late. Wow. That's what I love about camping. You never know what to expect. This is really, really weird. Those planes are still flying around and they've got unusual lights on, like blues and purples and reds. And also on some of the hilltops there's some really, really bright lights. Whether it's because I've lit my light, I don't know. But yeah, lights where you wouldn't expect to see lights, and I just don't mean cars going by, you spot those, but these are really, really dazzlingly bright lights that are suddenly lit up. And also the other strange thing was, I thought for a moment, oh, there's a little bit of drizzle coming down. Felt like it was spitting with rain, and I looked up and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And then when I went to pack everything away to get ready to sort of like bivvy later on, I just wanted to finish my wine and then just dive in the bivvy. Everything had a layer of moisture on it, and this can't be dew, it's far too early for dew. So looking up there now, there's some very, very high altitude clouds over in the west. There's nothing up above me, yet it feels like we've had drizzle. That's really, really, really weird. Okay, I've been thinking about what I've been trying to explain. You may just see a light in front of me. That's one of the bright lights. There were about 3 or 4 earlier on, and because it's moving and it's got a second one either beside it or just behind it, I think it may be a tractor with powerful lights these days. And the aeroplanes, I think they're just display aeroplanes. They were putting out smoke earlier on, and their lights were just not conventional civil airline lights. They would look like display aircraft. Now I thought, well, what about the so-called rain without any clouds? I thought, look, I'm sat right next to some crops. There could be robotic crop sprayers, and you know, they spray out they go round and round in circles, don't they? And at certain intervals, and it could well be I'm just getting the blast of that, especially if the wind's coming from behind me. That would make complete sense. It's being blown over towards me. So it's all explainable, but it's definitely weird. It's still weird. There's only the one light now. There were about 3 or 4 earlier on. Well, I've bought my lantern and I'm going to use it. It's about 10 PM now and I'm ready to get into my bivvy. So I'll light the bivvy up. I'm going to set things to recharge in there overnight. I've got my power pack, probably going to top my camera up and my phone overnight. It'll switch off when it's ready. And that's looking back into the pitch blackness of towards where the Roman temple would have been. That's looking into the head area of my bivvy. The great thing about this is, I was saying earlier on, I like the side entrance. I can just unzip it, get in and out during the night if I need to, but in the morning I've set it down so I can unzip that and just look at that amazing view. I know it doesn't look much now, but in about 8 hours time that would probably look fantastic. I'll say good night, see you in the morning. Good morning from inside my bivvy. Just looking out through the mosquito net towards my bike, and then that would be the view I was looking over across that last night. It's just gone 7 AM. I've been awake about an hour because I heard a small vehicle coming towards me, and it was just like a little farm buggy. It came from that direction past me, and then about 10-15 minutes later it came back. It didn't stop either time, but it clearly saw me, and it just carried on doing farm work. And then I've just heard, I thought I heard it coming back, and then I saw it going through the middle of that crop field, so there must be a track through that as well. I think it would be wise if I got up and started sort of packing a little bit. I am going to cook my breakfast, but before that I'm going to put some hot water on, so time to start moving, I think. So I can hear activity down there. You can see there's lots of white farm tracks round, but even around these fields you see this sort of the green boundaries, the service roads in effect. like this one. I can see one of those buggies going along there. Whether that's the same one or not, I don't think so. It's going along there. As I was trying to describe last night, I think that gives you a good idea where that white cloud's breaking through. Just the difference between the pitch blackness of the land and the almost pitch blackness of the sky, but there was some light, and so it's where grey was meeting black, and you could definitely see the line of the landscape there, and you could hear the sheep by, and you could see them scattered all over the fields. What I've noticed this morning, lots of pheasants everywhere. You can hear them down in that field as well. Oh gosh, they're scattered everywhere in that field, just little black dots. There's quite a few up here. Last night as I came in, there was so many hares along here. You could definitely tell they were hares, not rabbits. I just loved this view. Anyway, time to get some hot water on. Okay, it's 9:30 and I've all packed up, and there's just a little bit of hill mist coming in, not even drizzle really. I was starting to linger a little bit, and then one of the farm buggies come along, and he just pulled up and had a quick word and just asked me if I'd be moving on soon. I said yeah, sure. I told him I'd be nowhere near the crops. He said no, that's okay. He just said he wants to release some birds up here soon. I can see them already, the pheasants, which explains that yesterday actually. So I was going to head back to that V and carry on along Margary's 45B and then drop down towards Maiden Bradley, but I think I don't want to abuse his goodwill. I'm actually going to do what I told him I was going to do. I'm going to head back the way I came up, back to Brixton Deverell, and then I'll turn right there and head along the foot of the hill actually. I'll be able to look back up at that basket beacon as well, and then head towards Maiden Bradley, then into Froome. So I'm back up at the trig point. Anyway, I really do want to get off this farmland sort of sooner rather than later, because I just feel I'm on somebody's goodwill and I don't want to abuse that. Okay, I've dropped back down past that barn. So if I zoom in, you'll see you've got the barn on the left, there's a tree and some hedges on the right, and in that gap in the middle you'll see the white track going up and curling round. That's what I've just dropped down from the trig point. So I've come down here, another one of these junctions of tracks where they go off in different directions. You can see it's clearly bridleway, so I'm perfectly entitled to be up here. And this is the way I'm heading back down. You'll start seeing the thatched roof there of Brixton Deverell. So it's quite a long drop back down. I know that because it was a hard slog coming up yesterday. Dropping down to Brixton Deverell, going to be taking this very, very gingerly. There's some walkers coming up. On it. Okay. Yeah, been up the top camping. Alright. Alright, okay. So I've just dropped back down into the valley at Brixton Deverell past the farm. So you can see no through road. And the farmer who had a word with me this morning has just gone by in his little buggy. How strange is that? That was the way I came in yesterday. You can see you'll buy this cottage, thatched cottage, 13-mile-an-hour limit at this no-through road. I literally am down to about the last 3 or 4 mouthfuls of water and squash on my bike. So I'm heading this way. I'm going to join a B road which would head to Stourhead left, and then I'm going to turn right, head towards Froome, where I know there's a co-op I can pick up some supplies. But as I come into that junction, I'm pretty sure there's a water source there. There's a village hall with a tap, so that's what I'm aiming for, because I do need to fill up sooner rather than later. Just before I turn off to Maiden Bradley down there, I'm just doing a quick dog leg. I've seen this sign there, the Gliding Club, so that gives you an idea of what was happening last night, like a private members gliding club. But I suddenly remembered there's St Mary the Virgin at Kington Deverell, and so there may be a water supply in there. It's a lovely church to look round anyway, but there could well be a tap in the churchyard, or maybe even inside. if I see a water butt, it's probably game over here. Oh yeah, look, there's a water butt. Oh, hang on, is that a tap next to it? I think it is. Just gone back for my water bottle. Yeah, just trust my instincts. Sometimes they're near the gate, near the entrance. They've got to be fairly easy to find for people to be able to use it. The minute I see a water butt, yeah, obviously can't drink that. I quite often think, well, there's no tap. But look, there's a tap right next to it. I've just turned onto the Maiden Bradley Road. It comes up here, does a right angle, left, and then it's going to run along underneath that ridge, and you can see it quite clearly here. It's not this near one, it's that further one up along there. So my route this morning should have gone along there, and then I was going to turn left off it and drop down to join this road. So my Garmin's are at the moment telling me I'm off course. So we're going to go along this road, and as I was going along there, I was going to take a left-hand turn at some stage. I don't even know where it is in relation to this road, and then it'll come down, join this road, and then my Garmin will ping, and then we'll carry on a little bit further to Maiden Bradley, then we turn right on a B road, drop down towards Froome there. It's a lovely morning, as you can see. So glad I got plenty of water and had a really big drink back there as well. Within half a mile of joining this road, running along the foot of the hill, you can see every time there's a gate you can get really good views up there. This is wonderful, isn't it? See all the sheep scattered around, cows up there, and there's the ridge line running along there. I think we've passed the beacon, it would be back over there, but as we go along I think there's a view looking up back to it that way. Hopefully we get a view today. Just think that ridge has come all the way from just outside Wilton, and then it drops down at Maiden Bradley. As I was trying to describe last night, as I understand it, the Romans built whenever possible on high ground, because you can imagine all the water would be flooding down here. It wouldn't be flooding uphill, would it? And also a road up there, a military road, would be much more difficult to attack. These days it's been long abandoned, it's just a track. So you've got the road down here in the valley, and there's a corresponding one at the other side following the Wiley Valley. I've just reached the gateway, which gives us the angle that I can look back at the beacon. You can see it's up there. I'll zoom into it. So there it is up there. Just to the left of that, down in that little fold, just as it dipped down. I'm guessing that's roughly where I was, just the other side of that. So anyway, that's the course of Margary's 45B, heading towards West Mendip. Now at Maiden Bradley, and that's the road I've just come in from Kingston Deverill, 3 miles from that church. I'm turning right here, heading towards Froome, but there's something along here I wanted to show you. So just about 100 yards or so up, there's traffic calming here, so quite often you'll get queues of traffic. By the Bradley Inn, you get this, look at this, Millie Moo's milk dispenser shack. It's got what looks like optics to flavour it, then you just put your bottle in there, pay for it, and it dispenses it there. Open the drawer, and then it's got white products there. It's a local farm, does dairy products, Sunset cheddar, farmhouse butter, etc. Again, there used to be a cafe here, but I guess there's no need now really. But right next to that is this. So this is the way I've just been in. You can see it says Romano Celtic Temple up there, so that would be Margary's 45B. So I guess that's where I should have come down this morning and joined this road, final mile or so into Maiden Bradley here. And here we are, the Bradley Hare pub. But at this crossroads here, you'll see the memorial hall. That's where I was going to get my water from. I'm glad I got it back at Kingston Devil, because I'd have run out by now for sure. But I'm going to go up there and have a long drink and top both my water bottles up anyway. Yeah, so Margary's 45B, a lot of this section is just unknown really. So you can see it probably went along here. And that's where I got horribly lost when I tried to retrace it. I was trying to do something like that to Gare Hill and get up there. Look, little seating area. These tables. There's a wooden seat there. And the back of the memorial hall. I've got the map spread out here. I really wanted to show you where I was. So this is Margary's 45. It's designated by Margary. Ivan Margary is the historian who catalogued them in the 1950s. There's Winchester to Old Sarum near Salisbury, and that section is called Margary's or M45A. Then when you leave Old Sarum, it drops down and crosses the River Wylie. Where the line is broken, that's unsure of the course. But it crosses the River Wylie there, then it goes straight up onto Great Ridge. And that's the temple there, Cold Kitchen Hill Roman Temple. You can see straight away it's dotted. This is the section I was saying to Maiden Bradley. It's just unsure of where it goes, but it almost certainly drops down off that big hill to Gare Hill Forest. And then it carries on up to the lead mines that were at Charterhouse on Mendip. And then some say it carried on down to a Roman port at Breen, but not everybody agrees. I've seen some aerial evidence to suggest there are Roman roads down there, and when I rode Margary's 45B from Old Sarum to Charterhouse, I bivvied my first night there at Beacon Hill, where the Fossway crosses it from Exeter all the way up to Lincoln. And then I carried on the second day down to Breendown and just rode up to West Supermare, got a train home. But this is the other road I was telling you about, from Poole up to Bath. Margary calls this 46, Margary's 46. So it came from Poole up here, and you can see straight away broken dotted line, and then it just disappears. And then it reappears there. So just using the ruler method, you can see if it went straight, it would be crossing 45A at Cold Kitchen Hill, or thereabouts, somewhere around there. And then it carried on up to Bath and headed west into what is now modern day Bristol, Sea Mills, near the mouth of the River Avon in modern day Bristol. So that's where I was last night. Where this road crossed it, I don't think anybody's completely sure, but somewhere where we were last night. And why would there have been a Roman temple in such a remote place? Probably because it was on a major road junction. I've just pulled one of those seats up under the overhang of the roof and to get some shade from the sun. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me on this trip. It's been one I've been wanting to do for a long time. My next video, I've already partially filmed it actually. And what I've been doing is going back to local thankful villages. They're the villages where everybody who went off to serve in the First World War, men and women, all returned safely alive. And I'm revisiting thankful villages that I'd been to before in my area, but I didn't leave my knitted poppies on. I've only started doing that this year, so I really wanted to retrace and leave poppies. So the video is 3 different rides. I've done 2 of them so far, so 2/3 of the video has been filmed. I'll do the last one and then edit it all together. At the end of that video, I'll tell you about my plans for my cycle tour next summer. Sometimes I have to give my tours a lot of thought, like last year's for instance. I didn't work out what I was going to do until about November. This year I came back from the Thankful Villages ride and thought almost certainly going to be Thankful Villages next year, and it is. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me on this video. If you've got this far, thank you very much, and as usual, look out for each other everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.